Magandang umaga, Malacañang Press Corps, and welcome sa ating press briefing ngayong araw, August the 3rd. The Department of Budget and Management recently submitted the proposed 2024 National Expenditure Program amounting to 5.768 trillion pesos to the House of Representatives. Under the proposed budget, the following sectors would be prioritized: food security, transport and logistics, energy, education, health, social protection, fiscal management, bureaucratic efficiency, climate change, and the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. And in line with these are all in line with the objectives set by the Philippine Development Plan and the Marcos administration's 8-point socio-economic agenda. And to tell us more about this, we have with us Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman, Chief Economist Dr. Joselito Basilio, Undersecretary Janet Abuel, and Assistant Secretary Mary Ann de la Vega. We are full force today to talk about the budget. To start our briefing, let us watch this video presentation from the DBM to have a glimpse of the salient features of the 2024 National Expenditure Program.
The Philippines, now one of the best-performing economies in Asia. Defying global headwinds and the challenges of the pandemic, GDP growth hit 7.6% in 2022 and is expected to continue to be the highest in Southeast Asia in 2023. We are on track with our Agenda for Prosperity, our roadmap for economic transformation based on our medium-term fiscal framework and 8-point socio-economic agenda. This is also aligned with the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028. For fiscal year 2024, the proposed national budget is 5.768 trillion pesos, equivalent to 21.7% of GDP, 9.5% higher than the previous year's budget of 5.268 trillion pesos. This budget was carefully considered to strengthen the purchasing power of Filipinos, reduce vulnerability and mitigate scarring from the COVID-19 pandemic, and ensure sound macroeconomic fundamentals in the near term. Bearing in mind inclusivity, the social services sector will receive the largest allocation of 37.9% or 2.2 trillion pesos. Towards sustainability, the economic services sector will receive 1.7 trillion pesos or 29.6% of the budget. The proposed national budget has been designed to achieve the near-term objectives identified in the 8-point socio-economic agenda. To ensure food security, we will strengthen our agriculture sector. We are boosting rice production with 30.9 billion pesos for the National Rice Program. We will assist local rice producers through the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund. Agricultural products such as corn and high-value crops will receive increased funding, and we will improve agro-fisheries through the National Fisheries Program. To reinforce agricultural productivity, the National Irrigation Administration will receive 31.2 billion pesos to generate an additional 31,548 hectares of irrigated farmland. We will continue the Build Better More program with an allocation of 1.4 trillion pesos for 2024. This will fast-track the infrastructure flagship projects of the administration of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and see the construction and improvement of more roads, airports, railways, school buildings, hospitals, and health centers, as well as housing and community facilities. To achieve all this, we have allocated 822.2 billion pesos for the Department of Public Works and Highways and 214.3 billion pesos for the Department of Transportation. To reduce energy costs and promote a sustainable mix of energy resources, we are focusing on renewable energy development, energy efficiency and conservation, and alternative fuels and technologies programs. Following the lessons from the pandemic, we are expanding access to affordable and quality healthcare even in the farthest regions through the National Health Workforce Support System, Health Facilities Enhancement Program, and the National Health Insurance Program. Education remains a top priority. with 924.7 billion pesos, equivalent to 16% of the national budget, with higher allocations to the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Program, Basic Education Facilities Program, and the newest Supporting Innovation in the Philippine TechVoc Education Training System program. With strengthened social protection, we will ensure that no Filipino is left behind. We are providing the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program with a higher allocation of 112.8 billion pesos, while the social pension for indigent senior citizens is now doubled to 49.8 billion pesos. The Pambansang Pabahay para sa Pilipino program will be supported with a goal of building 6 million affordable and decent housing units within 6 years. We are also introducing the Philippine Food Stamp program to address the nutrition needs of the most food-poor Filipinos with 1.9 billion pesos.
Sa ating pagtahak sa kaunlaran, walang mamamayang Pilipino ang maiiwanan.
Towards bureaucratic efficiency, our digital transformation will be accelerated with 38.7 billion pesos for digital infrastructure. To ensure efficient and sound fiscal management, we will adopt the Integrated Financial Management Information System throughout the bureaucracy, following Executive Order No. 29, Series of 2023. To ensure sustainability, climate change expenditure tracking has now reached 543.4 billion pesos to monitor the scope and distribution of the country's climate action. Our local government units will receive 871.4 billion pesos pursuant to the Mandanas-Garcia Supreme Court ruling. Meanwhile, 70.5 billion pesos will be allocated for the annual block grant of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, which increased by 9%. We have also allocated 1 billion pesos for the Support and Assistance Fund for Participatory Budgeting to accelerate access to safely managed water supply and sanitation services in lagging municipalities nationwide. These will be identified through local participatory budgeting activities. Finally, in constant pursuit of fiscal transparency and accountability towards an open government, we continue to keep our budget and other releases open to public scrutiny.
Through the fiscal year 2024 National Expenditure Program, we are determined to remain on track with our agenda for prosperity, securing a future-proof and sustainable economy. It is our fervent hope that this budget will lay the groundwork for making the country's growth inclusive and sustainable and bring us closer to our goal of a new Philippines, not only for the Filipinos of today but also for future generations.
Okay, there we have it. Those are the summary of the 2024, the proposed national budget. We are going to open the floor now to questions, but before we start, I actually have a question. Good morning, Secretary. This week has been a bit of a situation for Metro Manila, and Luzon, actually, because of the flooding. I'm wondering, in the national budget, in the proposed budget, are there any plans to address massive flooding, considering this affects business and everyday life of our citizens?
Under the DPWH project, there's a flagship project there that is called a Flood Management Program. In 2023, for this year, we have a budget of 185 billion. And for 2024, we propose 215.643 billion under the Department of Public Works and Highways Flood Management Program. And on top of this, there are also foreign-assisted projects under KOICA, or Korean Exim Bank. These two projects are the Pampanga Integrated Disaster and Risk Resiliency Project. Tama ba to? And there's one more, yung Bulacan Angat Water Transmission Project. The Pampanga,
it's a loan, so we just funded the government counterpart. So for the Pampanga, it's 1.397 billion yung government counterpart. And for Bulacan, it's 7.4 billion. Tama ba? Tama ba? And under the MMDA budget, there is also funding, but this is mostly in Metro Manila. For 2023, it has tama ba? Flood control, 1.9 billion. And then for 2024, there's 1.3 billion pesos.
Okay.
Yes,
So that's also in keeping with the priority of infrastructure development for the coming year. Now let's open the floor to Malacañang Press Corps. Any questions? Maricel Halili, TV5.
Hi, Secretary. Magandang umaga po. Secretary, I understand that next year's proposed confidential and intelligence funds are higher by about 120 million pesos compared po sa allocation this year. Why is there a need to increase the intelligence, the confidential and intelligence fund for 2024?
There. Yes, meron pong increase na 120 million for the confidential and intelligence funds. Yung increase po is because meron pong dagdag na confidential funds for the following agencies. DICT, and then there's also an amount for Anti-Money Laundering Council, and may increase din po sa confidential funds ng ano pa ba yun? PSG and DICT. Yes. But ano po, just to give context lang po dun sa confidential and intel fund, if you will look po then yung total niya, it's yung percent share niya to the national government, actually it's on a decreasing trend. In 2018 po, ang share po ng CIF sa total national budget is 0.215%. Noong 2019, it's 0.192, 2020, 0.235, 2021, 0.212, 2022, 0.183, 2023, 0.190, and sa 2024 po, it's only 0.176. So, it's the lowest po dun sa time series natin. So, ibig sabihin po yung share po niya dun sa kabuuang budget natin, while you look at it, it's 10 billion pesos, it's actually decreasing naman po.
Okay. Any other question? Evelyn Quiroz, Filipino Mirror.
Good morning.
Yep.
Good morning, Secretary. Bali, yun pong confidential fund, clarify ko lang, 120 million additional po.
Yeah, for both.
For the three, PSG, DICT, and AMLC.
Tama ba? Kasi meron nag-decrease. May mga agencies na nag-decrease. Average siya na 120 for both. Net effect siya.
Pwede pong malaman yung sa PSG and DICT, ano pong ina-explain pa ho ba doon kung ano yung, bakit kailangan madagdagan yung intelligence fund nila? May particular, may procurement po ba?
Si Secretary.
Thank you.
The microphone.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. The DICT increase actually will cover the cyber programs of DICT, and that's 300 million. And then for the PSG, that will cover the intelligence activities, usually during the out of country ni Presidente, and that's only an increase of 50 million.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Alexis Romero, Philippine Star.
Secretary, regarding yung sinabi nyo kanina, lower share naman sa budget, hindi ba natural lang na maging lower yung share ng Intel funds sa overall budget given na tumataas naman talaga yung allocations sa basic services, sa infrastructure. So hindi ba parang natural lang na liliit talaga yung
I
percentage?
think what it's important is that yung other sector na tumataas. Yung confidential and intel mo bumababa. When you look at the budget, you look at the share of the different sectors dun sa total budget mo. So pag nakikita mo lumalaki yung social services, economic sector, and maybe general and yung defense, okay siya, di ba? Compared to your CIF. So if you look at it, it's sa math po, and, di ba? It's okay that it's decreasing.
But can the administration confidently say that well justified yung allocations, yung proposed allocations ito for Intel funds? Kasi as early as now, may mga nagtatanong na bakit daw tumaas or something like that.
Meron, kasi nga po may mga nadagdag na, like DICT po, meron po siyang additional na confidential funds for cybersecurity because we all know that we're pushing for digitalization. And when you fund po for digitalization, kasama po, parallel po yan yung cybersecurity investment. Bakit po siya kailangan na confidential? Because pag cybersecurity, it's related po, Ma'am Evelyn, dun sa sinabi niyo po, sa procurement process. Because you cannot, dun sa TOR mo, hindi mo siya pwedeng ilagay po yung technical specifications nung cybersecurity projects mo because may mga, di ba, ano man tawag doon, yung mga nag-hack, yung mga hacker. Pag makita nila yung specs, edi, di ba, wala rin po, hindi rin po natin ano yung cybersecurity project natin and programs.
So we can assure the public na tong intelligence, itong mga confidential funds will be beneficial to the country.
Yes po. And as mentioned yesterday po, yung confidential and intel fund, meron po yan existing joint circular which was released in 2015. The joint circular po is it's quite thick. And nandito po naka-identify kung ano-anong mga projects and programs ang pwedeng i-fund ng confidential and intel fund. And at the same time, meron din po ditong sa Section 4 of the Joint Circular, may detalye din po on how to disburse the funds. So, if you look at it, may accountability din po yung mga finance admin officers natin and disbursing officers natin. I can share po the guidelines and the circular to everyone later.
Salamat, sir.
Thank you po.
Okay. Ivan Mayrina, GMA7.
Secretary, nagkaroon po ng kabawasan na 2.93 billion ang budget ng University of the Philippines. May I ask why?
Alam niyo po, pag if you will compare the NEP ng 2023 and 2024, nagkaroon po ng increase yung budget. Pero kung i-compare mo po siya sa GAA, because it went already through the Congress, marami pong taga-UP sa House at saka Senate. So, meron po silang mga amendments. I was able to get the projects po, yung mga amendments nila, and most of it po are completion of existing infrastructure projects. So, pag completion na po siya sa 2023, we don't need the funding for 2024 po.
Wala po epekto ito sa bilang ng mga estudyanteng tatanggapin? And,
Wala po.
Okay.
Wala po.
Sa infrastructure lang.
Nestor Corrales, Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Good morning, Secretary. President Marcos is asking Congress to allocate 1.408 billion for local, foreign missions and state visits for 2024. This is 58% higher than the 893.87 million that was asked by OP in 2023 or this year. May we know what was the reason given why there was a 58% increase?
Yung travel po ng presidente, dalawa pong klase yan. Meron pong state visit that they invite you. And then meron din po yung mga investment roadshow. when I was asked previously po dun sa SONA kung ano po sa tingin ko ang nagawa ng this administration in such a short time, I think to bring us back to the map of an investment hub and opportunity po for other countries. Kami po, hindi lang po ang presidente, even the economic managers, if you will notice po, we have been going out of the country to present po the Philippines as an investment hub po. So, I think yung expenses po ng travel, as long as it will be beneficial and mas may advantage po para sa bansa natin, I think okay lang po yun. It's justified.
Madeline Moratillo, Net 25.
Hi, good morning, Secretary. Bakit po mas malaki yung budget ng DPWH kesa sa DA and DOH given na marami po tayong problema ngayon sa agri-sector and kasama siya dun sa priority ng Pangulo? Thank you po.
If you will look at our medium-term fiscal framework when we started the administration, meron po tayo dong goal to really increase or a standard of 5 to 6% of GDP yung infrastructure budget po natin. So, we're being consistent with that. Yung sa DA po, if you will remember po, DA and DAR, we increased already the budget of DA and DAR this year by 30%. So, ang ibig sabihin po nun, nagsimula na po tayo ng mataas yung base natin for 2023. And then 2024, dinagdagan pa natin ng additional 6%. So, mataas na po. For the past, siguro 2 decades, yung agriculture sector po natin, napakababa po ng funding and investment natin po dyan. So I think this administration, tumataas po ang budget natin for the agriculture sector.
Okay. Kenneth Pasyente, PTV4.
Good morning po, ma'am. Ma'am, kasunod po ng pagtaas po ng presyo ng produktong petrolyo and of course itong mga recent calamities, how exactly can the government achieve its goal po of strengthening the public's purchasing power under the proposed 2024 budget? Thank you po.
Gusto niya sagutin. Pwede ko rin naman sagutin. Okay, nasaan nga ba yun? Wait lang ha. Georgie, do you want to start? Hanapin ko lang data ko.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. So, as you may see, yung format ng President's message on the budget and the way the budget is presented, there are two main important socio-economic agenda in the near term that are being addressed. So, first, food sufficiency, and then next is yung reduced logistics and transport costs. Of course, there are others like yung energy costs and the social protection program. So yung first three on food security, yung agricultural programs which have increased, of course, as is the trend in 2023. For 2024, it will also increase, not only for agriculture but agrarian reform and then the attached agencies of the DA. And then on transport and logistic costs, you will see that yung railway projects and other transport system projects of the DOTR as well as DPWH are meant to increase and make smoother yung flow ng goods and services and even of people who market their products abroad. And then within the country and abroad. And then, of course, yung reduced energy cost, there's also an attached increase in programs that encourage private sector participation in renewable energy. And then, of course, if inflation impacts the vulnerable sectors, we still have social protection programs, although nag-decrease siya. But the point now is after the pandemic and after, for example, the fisher folks and farmers experience the negative effects of higher inflation, there are livelihood programs that are meant to make them recover faster.
Okay. Heidi Sampang.
Good morning, Secretary. Tama rin po ba na nabawasan po yung fuel subsidy compared po sa 4 billion last year, given po the fact na patuloy pong tumataas yung presyo po ng mga produktong petrolyo?
It's the same level. Same level. Ha?
Same level as net ng 2023.
Same level. Lower a bit. Sa yung fuel subsidy program under the DOTR, it's the same level po that we proposed in 2023. It's still 2.5 billion. For the proposed 2024 budget, it's also 2.5 billion. Similar to our fuel assistance program under the Department of Agriculture. These are for farmers and fisher folks. It's the same po. 1 billion po sa NEP, 1 billion po sa GAA, and also 1 billion po sa 2024 NEP.
Pia Gutierrez, ABS-CBN.
Hi, Secretary. For 2024, how much po yung budget natin for the pension of the military and uniform personnel? And naka-apekto po ba dun sa budgeting natin yung proposed MUP reforms that is expected to be passed by the end of the year or early next year?
Because we don't have the legislation yet, and in fact, we don't have the admin version yet, kasi kakatapos lang po yung consultation ng economic team around the country, and I know that GSIS is working on a actuarial po. Matatapos din po nila yung study within the month or the next 2 weeks. By then po, we will have the admin version of the MUP. So, since wala pa po, same pa rin po yung budget natin. We still provided the fund for the MUP, which is almost 150 billion pesos.
Once na mapass na po yung legislation, will we expect changes din po doon sa budget?
Yes po, because yung consultation po natin, I think they agreed naman po to contribute dun sa pension system. So mababawasan po yung pressure from our national budget.
By how much po?
Wala pa po, ma'am. Maybe soon they will have the figures na.
Maricel Halili again, TV5.
Secretary, just to follow up on Nestor's question earlier, do we have data or rough estimate as to how much did the government spend for the foreign travel of the president, and how much do we earn? Do we have data for that?
May final data na ba tayo for to date? For this year, wala pa po. Maybe we can provide second quarter, no? We can provide second quarter once submitted na po yung budget ng agencies. Doon sa kung gaano po kalaki yung nakukuha nating investment, I think DTI already released the figures. Every time dumadating po si Presidente sa mga state visits niya, meron po silang data na nilalabas on the total commitment po from other countries.
Maybe I can add also, recently the visit of the President of the European Commission, in her speech, she said that the reason that she was here was also because she met the President in Brussels earlier this year. So these trips that the President and the teams have been making, we are seeing the effects of them now. Evelyn Quiroz, Filipino Mirror.
Secretary, kung meron pong budget na puro palabas, meron po ba tayong data na yun naman pong savings nyo for the first and second quarter of 2022?
May savings ka na ba? 2022.
At ano po yung ginagawa kung may savings po yung mga departments?
Hindi pa natin makikita. Ikaw na.
Yeah. As far as 2022 is concerned, we cannot still say that it's savings because the 2022 funds are still available for 2023 for implementation. So we can't give yet any amount as far as that savings is concerned.
Thank you.
Any more? Alexis, did you have a question? Philippine Star.
Secretary, yung mga SONA fiscal wish list ni President Marcos, naka-incorporate na ba yun sa revenue assumptions?
The revenue
Yung
revenue
tax
measures po.
measures na pinupusha sa SONA?
Yes po. Oo, no. Yes, it's already incorporated. Yung mga tax measures ng administration, the package 4 of Passive Income and Financial Intermediary Taxation Act, VAT on digital service providers, excise tax on single-use plastics, excise tax on premixed alcohol, and the sugar and salt tax. Yes po.
So the combined revenues...
Motor vehicles, road users tax, mining fiscal regime, and excise tax on sweetened and salt food, beverages and food. Yes po.
So the revenues are...
Yes
we assume we will get them. What if Congress does not pass those measures?
Most of the measures po are already in the advanced stage. In fact, yung sa House, most of it are already napasa na po ni Kong Joey. Nasa Senate po, we need Senate to concur kung ano po yung mga napas na budget. Legislations. During the LEDAC po, last month, it was also discussed and the Senate and the House po both committed to pass the legislations po.
Pero kung sakaling hindi po, we will borrow.
Yes. Or maybe, papalakasin ang ekonomiya para mataas po yung revenue natin.
Okay. Thank you, Sec.
Okay. Pia Gutierrez, ABS-CBN.
Habol lang po dun sa question dun sa flooding. Yun dun sa climate change mitigation, how much are we allocating for 2024?
In our budget po, we have a program called Climate Change Expenditures Tagging, CSET po. So for 2024, there's a total of 543.45 billion earmarked for climate change mitigation and adaptation projects and programs of the national government. This is equivalent to 9.4% of the total proposed budget, exceeding our commitment of only 8% share under the Philippine Development Plan. Much of the projects po is for water. If I can just enumerate the projects. For water sufficiency po, 294.46 billion. For sustainable energy, 180.72 billion. For climate smart industries and services, 6.02 billion. For ecosystem and environmental sustainability, 5.95 billion. Another 12.97 billion for knowledge and capacity development. Food security, 40.18 billion. Human security, 2.58 billion. And cross-cutting actions, 550 million pesos. And related to that po is another 1.7 billion under the Philippine Space Agency to better monitor our land and marine resources as well as terrestrial ecosystems. I think this will be used for a satellite. Yeah, 1.2 billion will be used for multi-sectoral unit land assessment satellite development. Yan po.
Ivan Mayrina, GMA7.
Question lang po. How much of the 5.7 trillion budget is going to be funded by revenue and how much through borrowings?
So borrowing from the total 5.768 trillion budget will be 11% of the pie. So this is consistent with the medium-term fiscal framework. So the rest, as the President said in Misona for 2023, the same with 2024, socio-economic services will be around still close to 70%. And the rest would be general administration and defense expenses.
Okay. I think we're okay, everybody? That's a lot of information, and you have your documents with you. Thank you so much to Secretary Amena. Would you like to close with something?
Dun sa question po ni Sir Ivan, we have during DBCC po, the last DBCC po, we released the figures po of revenues, disbursement, and surplus deficit. Of course, pag may deficit ka, yung mostly yun yung sa loan natin. We can also share you the figures po.
Okay. You want to say something to close, or you're okay?
Yeah, for more details of the budget, it's online. It's already online, the NEP and all the budget documents. And of course, we want our budget to be transparent, and we want people to participate in the process. So on August 10, we will have our DBCC, and August 22 and 23, August 10 DBCC and HOR, and on August 22 and 23, it will be in Senate of the Philippines. So hopefully you'll also join us there. Para if you need more details of the budget, we'll be there. Similar to our other cabinet secretaries when they go to Congress to defend their budget. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much to our very hardworking Department of Budget and Management, of course, led by Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman. And thank you, Chief Economist Dr. Joselito Basilio, Undersecretary Janet Abuel, and Assistant Secretary Mary Ann De La Vega. Thank you, Malacañang Press Corps.